This is the Cooler Master Ergo L, a £600 ergonomic chair. It's a partial mesh design with faux leather and solid metal parts, and I can't say that I really like it. Let's take a look. I'll talk you around why and show you around it to see if it's better suited for you. But first, if you haven't already, consider subscribing for more videos like this one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Now we have to start with this ergonomic shape. From the outset, it looks pretty standard as an ergonomic chair goes. A slight curve in the lower back and a curved base to support your thighs too. Very Herman Miller-esque. But the thing is though that I'm 6 foot exactly and I don't fit on this chair. Now I do fit on it, I can sit on it just fine, and even with the sliding base, my legs do actually fit, can be the right length, but the backrest is too short. The lower lumbar support, which is adjustable, we'll talk about that in a second, even at its highest position is still too low, and the headrest, even at its highest position, digs into my back and barely touches the bottom of my head. Now I've had a few shorter people sit in this, and they reported better comfort than I had, and so I think if you're above 5'11", I'd give this one a pass, but if you're a bit shorter, then it could be a better option for you than at least my experiences have been. Now, since I mentioned the lumbar supports, we should probably talk about it, since being an ergonomic chair, that's kind of an important feature. The thing is though, the way you get at the adjustable lumbar supports is by reaching into this small cubby hole and pulling it. It's just a sheet of plastic on a sort of ratcheting mechanism, and it's free on either side, which means it can actually be not level. And since you can only just about get your hand in here to just about lift it around, yeah, it's very, very difficult to get it in the right place, get it level, and good luck even doing anything if you're actually sat in the chair. You basically have to get out, get on your knees, and shove your hand in the hole just to be able to get it to the right spot for you. Now it does have a few more adjustments than lumbar support. You have a couple of these handles on either side. On the side that only has one handle, that is the height adjust, and it's honestly incredibly stiff, and so because it's a little pull handle, I might expect that to break at some point in my ownership of the chair, so keep that in mind. And then on the other side you have two handles. The front one is for locking the tilting mechanism in place, and the rear one is for letting the base slide forward and backwards. It's spring loaded, so if you're not sat in the chair and you pull that one, it will spring back into its most sort of short position, although if you're sat in it you can hold it up and slide your way around. Now the fact that you can move the base forward and backwards is a nice touch, except because the base is curved pretty heavily, it means that when you do slide it forward for someone my size to help support the back of my knees, it means that the position you end up being in makes my lower back pretty well unsupported in that slightly forward position. It's not the end of the world, but considering this is meant to be an ergonomic chair, having an adjustment to fit your size, make it less ergonomic and less comfortable, isn't exactly the best thing to have happen. But the lower adjustment has nothing on how badly the tilting motion absolutely ruined me. Now for context, I have arthritis in every joint in my body and it's incredibly painful and normally manifests itself as lower back pain, which can be sort of triggered fairly easily. And the thing is that because when you tilt the chair back and tilt the backrest back, the base either doesn't move or tilts slightly forward, which means that my lower back was entirely unsupported when you go to the most reclined position, and it felt very uncomfortable. After sitting in that position for 5 or 10 minutes, I had an incredible amount of pain in my lower back and had to go and lie on the floor for an hour to let the pain pass. Now I normally sit in a Noble Chairs Hero, which also has adjustable lumbar supports, but much easier for you to do while sat in it, and doesn't give me much pain if at all. By comparison, this ergonomic chair, well, it doesn't have a great vote of confidence. The other thing that the Hero has over this is nice armrests. The ones on the Hero have can move in 4 dimensions, have a really nice sort of feel to them, quite quality, and have basically locking mechanisms for every axis. These ones though, they only adjust in 2 dimensions. You've got up and down, which don't adjust high enough. It means that my elbow is still like 2 or 3 inches shy of being supported, which isn't fantastic. And they have forward adjustment, which is very loud, doesn't have a locking mechanism, and when you go to stand up or sit down, they slide in either direction and make you fall over. Again, for a £600 chair, I would like something a little bit better. Oh, and while we're talking about them, the actual top surface, while it is sort of soft touch and foamy, is also, it feels incredibly cheap. It's a sort of gloss finish compared to a more matte texture finish on the Noble chairs type, and I much prefer the feel of that to these ones. They also wobble like crazy. And I think that brings us nicely onto build quality. See, if you look at this from the back, you can understand why this is a £600 chair. You can see all of this cast aluminium from the backrest to the lower, well, the base to the armrest supports. All of this is solid aluminium. But when you turn around to the front and when you sit in it, boy, it just gets really, really confusing. When you look at the headrest, this is cheap faux leather. The tilting mechanism that it has is entirely pointless because the second you put your head on it, it will just fold back into its most sat back position. And the height adjust mechanism is incredibly cheap, plasticky. And again, when I got my head on it, it would just fold back into its most sort of short position instantly. As for the mesh design, I don't mind it much. The center base is a little bit more squidgy than I'd like, but it's fine. And the mesh on the back, while a little bit more scratchy than I'd like, is fine too. But the thing is though, if you're gonna have a mesh chair, why would you put faux leather in the one part of the chair that I would want mesh in, where the most heat is, along the center of your spine? I know that this is clearly done for styling, but I would much rather have faux leather on the sides and mesh in the center than this combination. The thing is, when you get this build and you step back and take a look at it, you can pretty easily justify your purchase. Especially with all of this solid metal, it feels like a very premium chair. But then you sit in it, and you try and adjust the headrest or the lumbar supports, and then you feel like you might have spent a bit too much money. See, it looks great, but for me anyway, that's kind of it. When I had other people sit in it, they kind of said the same thing. It was more comfortable for them, especially because they're a little bit shorter, and so they could see themselves using this as their chair at the office, but only if it was maybe £200 or £300 instead of £600. And speaking of pricing, this is something I don't normally show, but I found this listing on Alibaba for a chair that's almost identical to the Cooler Master one that sells for just $99, assuming you're buying enough of them, which again I would assume Cooler Master is. I wouldn't normally show this, except for the fact that Cooler Master are offering this or selling this as something that's good for your back. It's a health product on top of being a chair. And the fact that they haven't done any of their own research or design, they've just bought it in from China with a few customizations to make it look theirs, it just doesn't sit quite right with me. This is an almost exact match. The backrest is slightly different, but the tilting mechanism is identical, as is the seat base, which again moves forward and backwards, something you don't see all that often. And even the adjustment levers are identical. You know, how often do you see those little tab switches as opposed to big handles? So yeah, it didn't quite sit right with me, considering how much they're selling this chair for. Of course, a lot of this comes down to personal preference. I'm fairly picky when it comes to what sort of chair and comfort level I have to sit in, but you might like this one more, especially if you're under 5'11". This might be a more comfortable chair for you. You might enjoy it a lot more. And it is also currently on sale or discounted to £500 instead, which might help sweeten the deal. But I think I would still recommend you go and buy a Noble chairs for £300 instead of this for £500 or £600, because I know that you will at least probably a lot more enjoy the Noble chairs than the hit or miss aspects of this one. And with that said, those are my thoughts, but I would love to hear yours in the comments down below. Is this a chair you'd like to try it yourself? And if you have one, what is it that you like about it and maybe don't like too? And also, what would you rather, pick one of these up or pick a Noble chairs up for around half the price? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. I'm also going to leave a link to it in the description down below you can check out. And if you want to see any more videos like this one, like I said, there is a subscribe button that you can check out too. There's also going to be a load of other links in the description you can check out too, from merch or hoodies to t-shirts like this one, to Patreon for ad-free videos and you can support me directly, or a load of other stuff too. There's going to be some more videos over there. I'll leave the No Chairs Hero review for you to check out by comparison, and that is pretty much it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave those in the comments down below, but otherwise, we'll see you all in the next video.